30th June. So the department's overall expenditure institution management still at zero. If we could go to the next screen, thank you. That's just a graphical representation of where everything's at. Thank you. This is per sub-program. Administration, corporate services is the 16.6%. That's program 1. Program 2 broken down into the sub-programs, so the relevant directorates. Municipal administrations made up of 2 programs, 2 directorates, and that's specialized support and municipal governance, and that's sitting at 21.3%, public participation at 18%, capacity development 21%, municipal performance monitoring at 2.9%, service delivery integration at 18.8%, and community development worker program at 22.7%. Program 3, municipal infrastructures at 11.5, disaster management overall in the CDs at 13. That has 2 or 3 different sub-programs in it, and IDP, which is integrated development planning, at 23.6%. Institutional development is still at 0. So in terms of the economic classification, compensation of employees at 22.4, goods and services at 7.5, municipalities and provinces is at 0, departmental agencies at 1.6, non-profit institutions at 0, households at 0, machinery and equipment at 28.9, and financial transactions at 0. Again, that's just a graphical representation. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sridhar Singh. It was very, very quick and brief and succinct. Colleagues, thank you, Mr. Lang Albert and Bhavana. Thank you. It's the first time that we have financial reporting in our quarterly report, and I'm very pleased that we were able to do that. May I just, for record purposes, that was omitted earlier, is that been informed that the minister tendered his apology for this meeting due to prior commitments, and I just want, for record purposes, it to be stated that the minister would have been present had it not been for the prior engagement. So thank you, Mr. Paulson. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add before we open the floor for discussion.
Honourable Chairperson, I'm comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Paulson. Okay, colleagues, there we have the reporting for the first quarter. I open the floor for any questions or for clarity, for further deliberations. You're welcome to engage the department in terms of what was presented to us. Look. Okay. I recognize the Honourable Van der Westhuizen. Any other member? Van der Westhuizen, you are recognized. You may. Honourable Moran. Honourable van der Westhuizen, you may engage.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My questions are limited to the financial expenditure to date. My impression was that during a previous financial year, there were some challenges regarding the procurement of certain equipment. I think some of them had to do with the monitoring of air quality. And I'm just wondering whether those challenges have been resolved, whether we are going to perhaps see a repeat of that, etc. If the CFO could just give us an indication of whether she's expecting challenges in that regard again. Then, Chair, regarding the expenditure on integrated development planning, as we all know, we're very close to the end of the current term of office of the municipal councils. And I presume that this IDP planning coordination refers to that of our local authorities. And I'm just wondering to what extent, in terms of the timeline or cycle of IDPs, would it be perhaps better to try and align the cycle of the IDP planning processes with that of the term of office of our councils. And then, Chair, I wonder, the CFO went quite quickly, but in some instances we've seen, for example, what seems like possibly underspending and overspending going forward. Are there any concerns that she would like to share with us in that regard? Some of them, for example, being in terms of, it seems to me, municipal performance monitoring, reporting and evaluation, where only 2.9% of the budget has been spent to date. Is that a matter of concern? Corporate services, which is normally a fairly stable expenditure throughout the financial cycle, is only standing at 16.6%. She would be so kind just to tell us a little bit more. I'm highlighting municipal infrastructure with only 11.5% spend, and so on. I would appreciate that. For the rest, in terms of the performance of in terms of the targets, I think that I'm quite happy, and I would like to congratulate the department on what has been achieved and how close they are already to achieving all indicators. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. Honourable Moran, I recognise you.
Thanks, Chairperson. Chair, just a couple of issues. The first part of the presentation, Chair, I think it's 4 or 5 issues. Slide 10, Chair, your public participation, and I think it relates to the CWP. The target set is 17,700. The output is 16,000, and one of the reasons cited there is that some of the CWP work is related to other provinces. Now, Chair, does it mean that those workers were in the system and then after appointed they have then left, and how does the department know that they've relocated to other provinces? The one is slide 7, Chair, municipal governance. You'll see the target is, and it relates to senior managers, 30 municipalities. The output is 23. Chair, does it mean that those municipalities not listed in that last column, they have not dealt with the issue of appointing senior managers? We can see those who are not listed, who are those municipalities. Is there any indication whether they will fill those positions, and what impact does it have on the municipality whilst those posts are vacant, the senior manager positions? I just want to understand that. Chair, slide 15, disaster, I think it's disaster planning, slide 15. There's an annual target, but there was no target set for this quarter, but they have achieved one. Is it an overachievement? Just would like to understand that one also, Chair. And then my concerns also when it comes to the financial part is the same of those of the Honourable Enriquez. The finance parts like 20, for instance, it seems, Chair, that at some states within a certain quarter, the majority of the budget will be spent. But if you look, for instance, at the first quarter, especially slide 20, municipal programs, only 2.9% of the 76 million that was spent, that was budgeted for. 2.2 million was spent out of the 76 million. It looks like a slow start. And when that particular target has been achieved, then it means they have set a low target for themselves. And also, Chair, another one, for instance, on page slide 21, I think it's municipal infrastructure, as indicated by the Honourable Van der Westhuizen, and only spending of 11.5. 4 million spent out of the total budget, Chair. But overall, Chair, you can see that most of the targets that's been set has been achieved. But I believe, Chair, the low spending now at the later stage, but the indicator also is that comes at the end of the year, all monies will be spent. Whether it's 1,000 rand or 1 million rand overspending, whether it's 1 million rand underspending, it seems that all monies will be spent. Obviously, we don't want underspending because local government deals with service delivery, and obviously you want those people on the ground to get all services that's needed. So, Chair, yeah, that's basically my clarity-seeking questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Honourable Moran. Honourable Maseko, I recognize you.
Chairperson, I think Member Maran covered me up. Just to add on the question of the CWP, the Community Works Program, I just wanted to find out from the department in the reporting, because I remember the past years, you will get in the municipality, and I will make an example in Robertson, that there were the problem of the workers not being paid. So I just want to find out from the department in the reporting, how do they get the information from the municipalities or from the CWP implementing agent or service providers? Who's doing the monitoring for that, and how are they doing that? Is there something that has changed from the past years to this financial year, that they are doing themselves the monitoring? If I can get the answer to that, to have an understanding of how does it operate, and that it will fall back on the issue of some of the participants have moved to the other provinces. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Maseko. I think I'm just going to ask just one or two additional questions, and then the department can respond comprehensively to the questions posed by the members. Our question is with regard to the municipal governance. It's the nationally determined indicator, and that relates to the number of municipalities supported to comply with the Municipal Systems Act regulations, and on the appointment of senior managers. There's an annual target of 30 municipalities. That's the number of municipalities we have in the province. To date, in the first quarter, 23 municipalities were assisted, and I think it also is in line with the question posed by Honourable Moran. The other 7 municipalities is there a possible explanation as to why those other 7 municipalities were not sort of assisted in that way, or will they still be sort of supported in terms of the compliance with the MSA? And then secondly, Mr. Paulser, in terms of the municipal and provincial support, and there's a 0% expenditure to date, is there a particular reason? Is that expenditure anticipated to be incurred in later quarters? And specifically, if you could just remind us what is meant by those sort of expenditure indicator. And then thirdly, is that the seed community development program, there's an anticipated over expenditure in terms of the budget plan for the year. Just give more clarity in terms of why that over expenditure is anticipated so early in the year. We see a particular program that will be rolled out that we may not be fully aware with at this stage. And that for now is the only questions I would you need to respond to, and there will be a second round of questions for members for clarity purposes. And Mr. Paulser, I hand over to you to.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I'm going to ask the CFO, Bhavna, to go first just on the expenditure, and then just ask the 3 chief directors to respond. And the Chairperson, Honourable Chairperson, I will do the balance of the questions if unanswered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paulser.
Thank you, HD, through you, Chair. So the first question related to air quality equipment, I think it's maybe for a different department. We've never purchased anything related to equipment for air quality. So I'm not sure if maybe it's Minister's other department, perhaps. Related to IDP and expenditure on infrastructure on Program 1, Municipal Performance Monitoring, Program 4 and the CDW expenditure. I'll address each of them now. Related to the alignment on the IDP, I think I'll leave for HD and the respective chief director. But related to the budget concerns, at this stage, there is no concerns related to operational money and transfers to municipalities. There may be delays in recruitment. People might retire or resign in the course of the year. There may be a number of things that happen that is outside of our control. So as an example, and a typical example, is on the CDWs, you ask about the over expenditure that is anticipated. At the time when we did the June projections, based on the number of staff that we had, and the way in which the COE upper limit is calculated, we would have been overspending on that specific line item on the CDW salaries. But since June, we've had quite a few resignations that, of course, are not anticipated. And since then, we are now substantially less underspent or overspent in terms of what it is the CDW COE would be. So that's one of the reasons that it's very difficult to say at this stage that there's concern around what the over or under expenditure holistically for the department is going to be, because the recruitment and selection, whilst is within our control, the way in which the staff either, the way in which attrition is within the department is outside of the control of any of the managers. There is no concern related to infrastructure, Program 1, nor the municipal performance monitoring, which is made up of 3 different amounts. And the infrastructure is mainly related to transfers and the recruitment of engineers, which is a little challenging at this stage. Program 1 is on par with regard to where it needs to be in terms of the projections. Municipal performance monitoring, like I said, is made up of 3 different amounts. One being district and local performance monitoring, that is on track. The CD municipal capacity building, that is on track. And within the CD municipal performance monitoring is 2 different types of grants that need to get administered. One being municipal support, which is directly controlled by the Chief Director, Municipal Support and Performance Monitoring, and the other directly controlled by the Chief Director, Integrated Service Delivery. So I'll leave it to the HOD to talk about in terms of where the amount is related to the 50 million. The rest is in process and on track for full spend in terms of the transfers to municipalities. Program 4, there's no expenditure on that, as is explained quite a bit over the last few years. The program has been opened, but HOD will be able to give you feedback in terms of where the legislation is related to the traditional affairs bill. Thank you.
Thank you, CFO.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson and Barbara. Colin, can you respond? And then I want to ask Ida and then Zuko.
Thank you, HOD. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, honourable members. Yeah, it's just a question around the one target or the one objective that we achieved as ahead of the 6. Normally, what we do, to explain it is that a lot of that training is focused to prepare our firefighters for the upcoming fire season. Now, unfortunately, last year it was a bit of a challenge for us because of the fact that we had very strict lockdown regulations and we were not allowed to train our staff. Firefighting is, by its very nature, the kind of thing that you train people. You have to have one-on-one kind of training. But what we did is we have the ICS 100 you see there is the incident command training. So we're looking for ways in which to improve our training and to make sure that our staff are trained. We are able to do ICS, which is incident command systems. We are able to do that training online. So we did have the opportunity to do it earlier than what we would normally do it. And that's really the reason that we actually have done some of that training already beforehand. So it's not an over achievement. It's really just the fact that we have been able to do it a little bit earlier. It takes a bit more pressure off us when we get to the end of the year and have to prepare for the fire season. Thank you.
Thanks, Colin. Ira, can you proceed, please?
Thanks, HOD. I'm going to ask Kamal Makan that is on the platform just to respond to the question relating to the national KPI, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ida. And good morning, members. With regard to the national indicator, I just need to contextualize the output that we've indicated there is that we have a quarterly meeting with COCTA, whereby we give information relating to the senior managers details, which is provided to COCTA, and which we also participate in the platform on a quarterly basis. That report also enables us to support the municipalities where we identify the need for support as well. So even though we've reached the target of 23, all 30 municipalities are supported, including the ones that haven't provided the reports, in order for us to indicate the type of support that they may require. And during the quarter, we obviously on a daily basis provide legal advice, correspondence pertaining to appointments, as well as the circulars and legal opinions relating to the regulations pertaining to appointments. So that support is transversely applied to all 30 municipalities. And for context purposes, that output then, obviously, just want to reaffirm, deals with the reporting that we do to national pertaining to the current status of senior management appointments and conditions in the municipalities. Thanks, Chair.
Mr. Bolsa, any
Thanks.
anything
Thank you,
else?
Honourable Chairperson. Either the balance on the infrastructure piece, and also the senior managers. I mean, the targets on the senior managers. I mean, it's demand driven, but please explain that. Ida.
Yes, I thought Bhavna, the CFO, had dealt with the expenditure for the infrastructure, but maybe I can just add with the blessing of the chairperson. So how it works, chairperson, is that all of the funding at the moment has already been committed in projects in municipalities. But at the moment, we are handling the payments on a claim basis. So as the contractors complete specific sections of the work, those sections are being signed off by the municipality, the engineers, but also by our own engineers. And then we actually make payments on a claim basis. That is also part of the controls that we have put in place to make sure that the progress is happening in line with our own planning, but also that we are comfortable to be able to make those payments. So, Honourable Chairperson, that's why we are at 11%, but we are on track to make a full expenditure on that. Also, just to indicate, I think further that is important to say that we have a group of geohydrologists that's currently on the ground. We have appointed them as a department through an open tender process, and they are assisting us to also verify and monitor the progress that we are making with regards to the projects, and also assist with quality control. And like I indicated, they then also, we pay them on a claims basis. We, at the end of Q1, we carefully monitor this. We also provide our HOD with quarterly progress reports, chairperson, and we are on track with our projects, and then also to make a full expenditure. Then just in terms of a little bit more detail around the appointments, the honourable members would have seen that we've actually dealt with quite a high number of appointments of senior managers, the assessment thereof. In terms of the Systems Act, there's a responsibility for our Minister Bredel to review these appointments and then give an indication back to the council about the status of these appointments, and the members would have seen that there's quite a number that we've done. For that reason, it is what we call a demand-driven requirement. So we don't necessarily set the correct indicator in the beginning of the financial year, because we don't know how many resignations and or movements of senior officials will take place during the year. So what we've done this year is, and we try and do that every year, honourable member, is we look at the past tendencies of the last few years and use that as benchmark. And that's what we also did this year. But taking into consideration that this has been an unusual year, with the election also being moved now twice, we actually saw a higher number of senior officials moving around, and for that reason we had to assess a higher number than what we initially anticipated. In actual fact, we anticipate that number will be even higher as we get closer to the election and also on the other side thereof. So that's why it's not able for us to pin down exactly to say how many they are. We respond as the need arises. Chair, I'll stop there. Maybe if my SOD wanted to add.
Thank you, Ms. Barnett. Also, it seems as if all the responses have been exhausted. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Okay, sorry, Honourable Chairperson, I just want Nazuka to come in, please, just on the alignment and also the CWPs, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Nazuka?
Good morning, Honourable Chair. On the IDP and honourable members, on the IDP side, Section 25 of the Municipal Systems Act is very clear. It says when a municipal council comes into office, it must then adopt its IDP for that term of office. So the issue of alignment, after they've now come in, they will then adopt an IDP. In general, it will then, the IDP will then go with the same period in terms of the adoption of the budget. So if they don't have sufficient time, let's assume that in the case, for instance, of the elections moved to February, they would then have to have an IDP by end of March when they adopt when they adopt the budget. But they have an option in terms of the Systems Act, in terms of Section 25, either to adopt an IDP of their predecessor, or they may adopt an IDP that they can still amend, an amended version of the IDP in terms of Section 34 of the Systems Act. And if there is sufficient time, they can then adopt a new IDP. So the issue of alignment, it is the term of office, the IDP is in accordance to the term of office of that municipal council. Okay. And the second question, I'll cover both questions on the CWP. As the honourable members are aware, the Community Work Programme is a national programme. Our role as a department is to assist the National Department of Cooperative Governance in terms of oversight. The National Department has appointed implementing agents to be able to implement the program on the ground, as by what Honourable Member Maseko indicated. That has not changed. In the case of the Western Cape, there are 2 implementing agents that are implementing within the Western Cape, and they then they have their own site managers, and therefore they clearly, in terms of the management of the participants, they would then, for instance, in the case of the pandemic, they would know which members, with participants rather, which they are responsible for, have either moved to other provinces or may have had issues in relation to some people may have passed, or some people may have then decided to stop participating in the program. So those site managers then have that information. The figures that we get in terms of the monitoring, that's done by the implementing agents with their own site managers on site. We then receive that information from the implementing agent, but we also have local reference committees that comprises us sitting as a department, the implementing agent, but also the various municipalities in those areas and represented by ward committees in those areas. So we are aware in terms of what's happening in the program. We tend to assist the National Department if there are any issues that require to be unblocked, especially within the province. So that then becomes our role. So the manner in which the CWP has been implemented has not changed. It still remains the same. I think that's about it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazuka. Is Paul says anything that you want to wrap up with?
Thanks, Honourable Chairperson. So I think what 2 things. I think the just on the alignment and so on. So we know that the National Minister will most probably gazette the date of the 27th of October by this afternoon on the local government elections, and we also understand the the further developments around that with the electoral court on the possible postponement of it. So we've done what we call a strategy on the local government elections, and we've taken that to cabinet. But obviously, what we need to do now, given the fact that there's intelligence that the local government election will most probably be postponed, we are doing what we call an assessment on the implications, both from a legal perspective as well as from a practical perspective. So we know that the contracts of the senior managers come to an end in municipalities a year or after local government elections, or within 5 years, whichever comes first. And I mean, given the fact that the way the Zuka has explained it, obviously the IDPs, the budgets that come to an end, and the preparation of it. I mean, if it's around about February and councils are required to submit their draft IDPs and draft budgets and so on, I think the incoming council will most probably have a month to look at that. And so I think there will be exceptions to the existing legislation, both from the National Minister of Finance as well as cooperative governance around this. And most probably, so we are assessing what are the implications, both legal and practical. And we'll also share that with the provincial cabinet as well as with the municipalities, what in our interpretation, those implications would be. So also the alignment of the IDP and so on, and the budgets are going to be critical for municipalities, as well as the implications on the extension of the employment of senior managers as well as MMs will reflect. And just on the 76 million, 50 million of that has been allocated to this department to help with the impact of COVID-19. And that relates to possible where we support small businesses, small economic generated programs. And we have done a due diligence process within the province, consulting national and various stakeholders on it. And we have just briefed the minister on the possible proposals yesterday. And so the minister has concurred with some of the proposals. And we will now put that further in the process with the provincial treasurer, also cabinet, to see to what extent we can now assist municipalities, which in turn can assist small-scale economic projects within the various municipalities which have been identified through a process. And then obviously, Chairperson, we would most probably spend that money in the next month or two, given that the work has been, should be finalized within the next month or two. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Very pleased to hear the last concluding remark in terms of that 50 million rand that was budgeted for that particular purpose. There is movement on that. But colleagues, are there any follow-up questions you'd like to ask? I see Honourable Moran's hand is up, and Honourable van der Westhuizen. I recognize you, Honourable Moran.
Chair, mine is not a follow-up question. Just to remind you that it's 10 and my request to be excused exactly at 10. So it's just to tell you, Chair, that or to ask you, can I be excused? Thanks.
You may, Honourable Moran. Thank you for your attendance. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Chair. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.
Thank you. Honourable van der Westhuizen, you'd like to pose a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And my apologies, it was my slip regarding the air quality equipment. It was for the other department under this minister. But I do recall that last year, with the COVID budgets, if I can call it like that, that this department, like many others, suddenly had to procure also IT equipment in order to enable people to work remotely, and that at one stage there was a problem with the non-availability of certain equipment. Again, perhaps if I understood Ms. Singh correctly, but she can just perhaps confirm that she doesn't foresee any similar challenges during the course of this year, or that the procurement would be running according to plan. And then lastly, Chair, in the past, this department has done great work with the training of councillors, particularly at the beginning of their term of office, which absolutely makes sense that you try and equip people as early on as possible and acquaint them with the legislation and other vast amount of information that local government councillors must nowadays possess. Now, I presume that some of that money would have been budgeted for this financial year, but now with the elections being moved out to February, and Mr. Paulson quite rightly said that March might be quite a hectic period for councils, as their draft budgets need to be adopted by councils before the end of March. To what extent has this postponement also impacted on the budget, and particularly the budget for the training of councillors, or would that have been done through external financing? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. Any other follow-up questions? Ms. Paulson, hand over back to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. So I was asked Bhavna just to respond on the IT equipment. I think we have procured all the IT equipment. We've got it. And then I want to ask Ira just to reflect on the budget for councillor training, and then I will make a concluding remark, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, HD. So related to the IT equipment, we did have challenges last year. The members correct in the recollection. We actually had extended periods of delay related to the delivery of equipment. We ordered it in January, February almost, and we only got it in May, June. And that was related to the CETA contract having expired, and then the delay in the equipment actually clearing customs to get back into the country. So whilst I'd like to believe that that's actually a thing of the past, I don't believe that it's going to be. And the reason for that is that the CETA contract has since again expired in March this year. We got an extension notification from the CETA a month ago, but there's still excessive delays due to the backlog of orders of departments that would have placed orders prior to the CETA contract having ended in the first place. The machine, what we found in our experience in the past 6 months of ordering is that the machines that we have ordered are not always readily available, and we have to wait yet again. We do have to embark upon an IT refresh for a lot of the equipment that is now reaching almost 6 to 7, sometimes 8 years old, because we're getting lots of breakages and equipment now that's not working. And given that we're working a lot more remotely these days, we need to embark on that. Whether we're going to incur problems at this stage, I'd like to say no, but I know that the reality is going to show differently based on past experience. So we'll try everything that we can in good enough timeframes as we can. As an example, a lot of the cases where we need to replace computers who are not working at all at the moment, we've already placed those orders or in the process of doing it. So we hope that it's in good enough time, but the problem is that every delay that we incur means that staff don't have the ability to work remotely, and then it means that they need to come into the office because there are desktop computers available at the office with network connectivity, and that's how we get around the ability for staff to be able to work. So I hope that answers the member's question. Thanks.
Honourable van der Westhuizen, just allow...
Just to follow up.
Before you proceed with the follow-up, I think there is a response with regard to the councillor training budget. Let's hear that response first, and then you can follow up.
Ira.
Thank you, HOD. Honourable Chairperson and members, yes, indeed, Honourable Member Westhuizen, we are getting ourselves ready once again to proceed with the training of the newly elected councillors. So what we did was this time around, as we were ending the 5-year term, we actually, with the support, the members are aware that the Hans Seidel Foundation has been our partners for many years in providing training and additional capacity building to our councillors. With their funding support, we actually undertook what we would call a research project to see what are the lessons that we learned from the training of the last 5 years, what worked well and what didn't work well. And then they also, our service providers, which were one of the universities then, made recommendations to us about what they are proposing for us to do at for this 5-year, what the material should look like, and also how we should approach the training per se. So just some of the matters that is then to be included, which was also a specific request from our minister, is a few things which I think Chairperson will help if I highlight them, is for the sessions to be a lot more practical so that councillors can engage with the information and also get a practical understanding, and role play so that they can get more familiar with the space. But what is also important is how we are putting together for the next 5 years is also to provide further educational opportunities for our councillors. So we are designing it so that the councillor can have either an NQF level 7 or 8 qualification at the end of the 5 years. So it actually creates an educational building and furthering of their own skills opportunity, Honourable Chairperson, if they so wish. Now, in terms of the funding, in this year, in our support and capacity building unit, we have made provision for the development of this actual material. And we are currently in a process of an external tender to secure the appointment of service providers. So year 1 is the year that we currently in, and we made provision in our own budget for that. And then obviously year 2, 3, 4, and 5, we will then budget for the actual rollout of the training and the presentation of these training sessions, keeping in mind that for some councillors, they actually will want to do the actual NQF, which means the assignments and tests and so on. And for other councillors, it will be for attendance. And then just to say that Hans Seidel Foundation keeps on being our partner in this regard. And what we have agreed with them is that through an introduction of a very specific contact session by our HOD about 2 years ago, Honourable Chairperson, which we call the school or a winter school, which is a contact session with all the councillors where we specifically looked at matters like own personal development, like ethics and their own style of leadership. And I'm sure HOD can come in. But what we will do is immediately after the election of the councillors, whenever the election may take place and they've had the induction, we will then kick off our official training program with a summer school, which will once again focus on personal development, and HOD will assist me with a little bit more of his thinking. And then after that, we will start with the official NQF supported educational training opportunity for the councillors. So most definitely, we have passed our planning stages and we're currently developing the material, Honourable Member. HOD?
So, Chairperson, thank you very much. Thanks, Ira. So, I mean, while we're going to put in everything to develop and train the councillors, our appeal is the following: that will really get this around also a good quality of councillor, and that those that are entrusted with selecting or choosing these as councillors, that are also be mindful of the quality of councillor that we're seeking this time around. I think a councillor that understands the difference between when is it to play the role of the activist, otherwise a councillor, and otherwise what we call a political party member, so that councillors can understand how do you mutate fundamentally between those 3 roles in the council, and that the roles are not confused, and that we actually make good council decisions and governance arrangements within municipalities. Obviously, the type of council decisions and some of the conduct of certain councillors trip us up in municipalities. And then we need to spend a lot of time and try to correct that. So we sincerely hope, although we have prepared to do all the necessary training, that we this time around also get a good quality of councillor that will take us forward for the next 5 years. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Paulse. Honourable van der Westhuizen, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It was regarding the problems that we have by procuring IT equipment through CETA. And what seems to be happening is that CETA is just giving an extension to their current procurement contract year on year without going out into the market again to call for tenders anew. Can I just ask or be informed whether the tender specifications are then also being updated every time with these extensions? Because as we know, the IT world is a fast-moving one, and the specific, what was quite a usable specification 3 years ago, 5 years ago. Unfortunately, if you want to buy today, you are going to have a different specification for such IT equipment. So can we be assured that despite the fact that this contract has just been extended and extended, that the specifications at least are being updated so that we, as a province, when we procure equipment, are able to procure equipment that is relevant at the time of purchase? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable van der Westhuizen. Shirel Singh, I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Thanks, Chair. I cannot provide an assurance that the specs are updated on the CETA end. I can tell you that when we purchase off the CETA contract, which is mandatory, we can't deviate from it. And when the CETA contract is not in place, we actually have to get permission from CETA to deviate from it anyway, or to procure via our internal open process mechanism. But I can tell you when we do procure off the CETA contract or otherwise, we use the provincial government's minimum standard. So we always only buy based on what the requirement is of the provincial government. We don't purchase only based on what CETA says. So we look for whatever the equivalents are. IT do advise us in terms of what and how the equivalents work, or whatever it is we require. But the minimum standards related to the transversal IT requirements for the province are always met. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Shirel Singh. Mr. Paulse, before you proceed with your closing remarks, as you have said, there's just one more question I'd like to ask, and it doesn't directly links to the the performance report that you have presented today, but and maybe you could provide the committee with clarity. And it revolves around the agri-workers electrification program, and you have, particularly in the Breede Valley municipality area, it's the support role you play in terms, and in conjunction with the ESCOM, in terms of rolling out that particular program. Now, we all know, in terms of a response of a question that from the minister, is that the initial phase of the project, was up to 2019. The implementation of the project started in September 2016 and is still underway. Now, it is pleasing to note that 1,156 households connections were completed to date, and that many more people benefited from this collaboration with Eskom. I was wondering if you could possibly enlighten the committee in terms of is the project still on schedule? Is it anticipated that more people will benefit from this project if it is still not completed yet? And by when is it anticipated that this collaboration and this project will be completed? And then lastly, will a similar project be considered to be rolled out elsewhere in the province? Thank you, and that's from my side. I hope that you'll be able to provide us with a little, me at least, with a little clarity regarding that.
Okay, Cheng, thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I'm going to ask Marius Brandt, the representative of our side, just perhaps to respond in terms of the rollout. As you correctly say, it has been a program that we've piloted, particularly in the Breda Valley, and it's coming on for a number of years now. So we are working closely with Eskom around the project. And Chairperson, perhaps I'm going to ask Marius, and then I will make a couple of concluding remarks on that particular project. Thank you. Marius?
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, HOD. Yes, we started in 2016, September 2016. I've been in contact with Eskom, and they are currently still in process of rolling it out in the Dorens, Exeter Valley area. And we will be in contact further with them to see how we can look at further phases in taking it maybe to some other areas. But one must take into consideration that this project is funded by Eskom and will obviously have to be included in their 5-year plans as well as their budget. But we in consultation with them on a regular basis. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Marius.
So Chairperson, I mean, this is that has been a pilot project, and it has been due to consultation between ourselves and Eskom some time ago. And my own understanding, together with that of the Minister, is that we want to roll out to the balance of the provinces, but obviously it depends on the financial implications, and given the fact that Eskom is carrying the cost of it. But we're also in discussions to see to what extent some of the municipalities can co-fund this initiative to ensure that the project is rolled out faster in other parts of the province. And currently we are in discussions with our Minister, the Provincial Executive of Eskom, to get an understanding on the further rollout and their capacity to do so in the province. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson, for that sort of response. It's pleasing to note that the department is practically looking at how it can be sort of extended to other parts of the province, and how our municipalities can possibly get involved in this particular project. And I think it is very important. Thank you. Paulson, I don't think that there are any other questions that members would like to pose, and if not, I don't know if you want to make a few concluding remarks before we sort of release you from your commitment here today.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I just want to say thank you for the oversight role that you do play. It is appreciated, and we also reflect internally as to how we manage our own work. I think the department, and particularly the local government space, is entering a very difficult period. In actual fact, it has. So it actually coordinates the disasters, whether that's COVID-19, and you know we are entering the peak of the COVID-19. We're also dealing, there's a classification in terms of drought. So, I mean, in terms of the felt conditions, in terms of agriculture, we've made an assessment to see what extent farmers will require assistance. There's a national classification in terms of the drought, and also we must also monitor municipalities and towns to check the requirements for the summer season. and to what extent some of those towns are at risk of running or not running out of water, but at least have challenges around it. So that's on the one side, and obviously the floods that we have experienced now, and Colin can most probably at another time speak about it. But that's the one side, and then also on the other side, we're just in the courts with municipalities about invalid council meetings and decisions and appointments and so on. And it keeps us busy. And so apart from that, also the other initiatives which Nazoka is driving for us, but also the role that the entire department is playing in terms of collaboration, both vertically and horizontal, and we've done extensive work on it. And with the potential riots and so on, we've rallied around community safety and worked well together with the Department of Health, and also now with the taxi violence could give some kind of support. So we fundamentally, Chairperson, just in a concluding remark, are responsible for collaboration and pulling the municipalities together with the provincial departments and the national departments and see how efficient and effective we can work with government resources to the benefit of many citizens of this province. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Porter. On behalf of the committee, you know, what was presented and responded to today, it is quite sort of pleasing to note that you are on target with regard to the sort of objectives you set up yourselves to achieve during the past term. And we're very sort of pleased with the presentation of the financial sort of expenditure to date. And I think it provides context to the sort of qualitative sort of reporting of the department for the period. So it is by no coincidence what we've heard today is that you have you know, achieved your 9 successive clean audits, and on behalf of the committee, we'd like to express our sincere sort of congratulations and heartfelt appreciation for the work that you and your officials are doing to make sure that in terms of the overall outcomes for the municipalities in the Western Cape, that in terms of governance, we far outshine the other provinces, and it is largely attributed to your role that you play in terms of, you know, making sort of sure that good governance practices are being sort of adhered to in our municipalities, and that is very often sort of an outcome of your interventions where you see fit to intervene in. So on behalf of us, we like to encourage you to continue your work that you're doing. We know that you and your departmental officials are committed to the task, and we are extremely grateful that we have the commitment and the skills and the sacrifices you and your staff are making in the province. So till we meet again, may you continue to do what you're doing, and may you continue to excel. Thank you so much, Mr. Paulser. The meeting will continue. You and your officials are welcome to leave the meeting because there are some internal sort of committee matters that we will proceed with. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, members. Thank you very much. Likewise. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. And then they would just ask. Thank you, colleagues. So Johan and
The second part of the agenda is just the consideration and adoption of minutes. And then, but before we do that, could I then, just ask members if there are any specific resolutions that you like us to sort of adopt? And I think perhaps, as formally we can, as a resolution, congratulate the department on the 9 consecutive clean audits, just for record purposes that we have it as a resolution. Johan?
Chairperson, yes. On that one, that specific report hasn't come out yet. That's the one that we will now get in September, October. So it's just something that the HOD has mentioned. Maybe we will be jumping the gun because we're just going on his word now. But I have noted it. If you would like me to minute it, then I can. That the HOD indicated that they have achieved 8 in order.
Thank you, Johan, for that. Enrique?
Yes, Chair. I think we must just get the number correct. I think it was in the chat just now that apparently they have 8 consecutive clean audit reports. But I think what we can do at this time is already to, congratulate them on their record of clean audit reports, and then we're not jumping the gun as Mr. Kutsia, I think, aptly warned us.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Any other resolutions? Another resolution, and I think that I don't know, colleagues, if it may be maybe appropriate if we could, at the later stage, ask the department to give us a presentation or a report on the collaboration with Eskom with regard to the the pilot project that was rolled out in the Hex River Valley area in terms of the electrification of for agri workers. I don't know if it can be in the form of a report. We don't need to get a formal presentation on that. Honorable Mr. Maseko?
Chair, thank you very much. I don't know if it will be the right platform to ask. Maybe I don't know how can we put this, but I want to find out the issue of the MIG funding for the department, assistance to the municipalities when they do the applications for the MIG funding from national. To what an extent is the department involved? And I think you will understand why I'm asking this or why I'm bringing this in, because of as we go for the oversight or as we engage the municipalities, you find that there is sort of a disjuncture between the human settlements projects and the municipalities in light of they cannot access the funding for projects because of the infrastructure. But when you check, you'll find that it's like they don't know, or they don't have a clue when to do that, or how is it aligned. I don't know. You get what I mean, because we had this discussion.
Yeah.
But I cannot pinpoint of how can we ask that to the department to get, how do they align and not work in silos as the departments?
Yeah. I don't know if do you want it in a report form in terms of
maybe if we, I don't know what will work for us to get some answers. Maybe in the written form, I usually feel the written form, it gets quicker to us than the engagement. Then when we engage after
Exactly.
receiving the report.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
it
I
works
agree with
nicer
you.
that way.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, colleague. Johan, do you have that?
I have it, Chairperson, that's correct.
Any other resolutions? One last resolution, and I think that Mr. Paulson just touched on it, and he mentioned, I don't know if you can recall the 50 million rand that was budgeted for assistance to municipalities to have these small entrepreneurial relief programs that can be rolled out. And he did mention that they're preparing a report for cabinet for approval. So I don't know whether we should wait after that sort of presentation to cabinet, or should we then request a report in terms of that particular sort of budget item that that has not sort of been sort of rolled out yet. Honourable Seko, I recognize you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I just want to find out something. Maybe you can help me. I usually don't see the reporting on the LEDs, the local economic development program, of what is the contribution of the province towards the municipalities when coming to that. And remember, last we were talking about this, we even, if Johan maybe can indicate, we even requested if they can go and look at the municipality assets that they do have that falls within that programs of the LEDs, and to know what is the assistance that the department, are they giving to the municipalities in trying to generate revenue with those assets that they do have. I even made an example of Theewaterskloof with the properties that they have at the dam, Theewaterskloof Dam in Villiersdorp. So
Okay.
I don't see where do they report about that, and how do we bring it in to be something that we can monitor as the committee.
Yeah, and thank you. I think that is very relevant. So, Jan, can you just recap for us what you have written down quickly, so that we could just make sure that
Chairperson, yeah, just this last one. I'm not sure. I'll discuss it with the department as well. And would it not be maybe something that lies with the Department of Economic Development? Don't they make contributions to municipalities in terms of economic development? But then I do have the MIC funding assistance to municipalities, and how they assist in working with other departments. And then the presentation on the electrification in the Hex Valley with Eskom.
yeah, just not a presentation, just a report.
A report, okay.
Yeah.
Report.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think what I was asking is divided into two, is the LED and the asset register of the municipality. Is what you are saying, Johan, is that you have to ask that also, that they will get that information from the Department of Economic Development, or that one can fall within the Department of Local Government, because that will be something that is the foundation to what we'll be asking.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got it like that.
So, yeah. So just to contextualize that, is it how they assist municipalities in leveraging assets, the assets?
Yes, Chair, you got it.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay. And then the last one, colleagues, that in terms of that sort of entrepreneurial 50 million rand report, shall we wait until they have should have made the presentation to cabinet and then ask them to come and present it to us?
In agreement, Chair.
Okay, cool. Right.
Okay.
So, Johan, I think those are the resolutions.
I will compile it, Chair, and then I'll submit to you, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Okay. And then lastly, colleagues, is the last item on the agenda is minutes. Johan, if you're ready, then you can float the minutes.
Well, Chair, let me, okay.
So, colleagues, there's the minutes, draft minutes of the meeting that was held on the 15th of June. And as all of us who are on the platform now were present, including Mr. Moran. Right, and here we have the departmental officials. Any changes or additions, corrections? Okay.
Chair, I
Right.
propose that we adopt.
There's a proposal from Honourable Maseko that we adopt.
I will second that, Chair.
By Honourable van der Westhuizen. And that's the last point on the agenda. Colleagues, allow me to thank you for your presence today and for your contributions and sort of input into the meeting. Johan, thank you for putting everything together for us. And Mfundu and Siraj and Candice, thank you for your sort of presence and your availability and the support in the event of things going wrong. May you all have a lovely day. Honourable Maseko, Bryson.
Yeah, Chair, can I hijack you and ask the cluster visit that is it, since we are on level 3, is it going to happen or are you still waiting for the Parliament for the green light?
We're still waiting on the green light. We haven't had it, and maybe we can raise it at our members' meeting on Thursday, and we can take it from there. Right.
Okay, Chair.
Okay. Thanks. Colleagues, thank you once again, and have a beautiful day. And we'll see each other again. Okay, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.